Ray Charles, a soulful biography. Ray Charles was known as the father of soul and the genius. He was a musician, vocalist, arranger, and songwriter. He suffered through many challenges, including being blind and an African American during a time where African Americans were severely discriminated against. He impacted the world with his music and inspired others to follow their dreams no matter what challenges faced them. The early years. Ray Charles' parents were named Bailey and Aretha Robinson. Bailey was a repairman and Aretha was a sawmill laborer. On September 23, 1930, in Albany, Georgia, Ray Charles Robinson was born. While Ray was an infant, his family later moved to Greenville, Florida. They struggled greatly with financial problems, especially because of the Great Depression. According to Ray's 1978 autobiography called Brother Ray, he stated, "Even compared to other blacks, we were on the bottom of the ladder looking up at everyone else. Nothing below us except the ground." He was described as a happy child until the traumas commenced. At the age of 5, his younger brother George died in a horrific drowning incident. Around the same time, he started to lose his eyesight. By the time he was 7, he was completely blind. To this day, no one has a clue why he lost his sight in the first place. People say it could have been untreated glaucoma, but there was never an official diagnosis. His mother always taught him how to be independent and to never wallow in self-pity. At the same age, he left home to become a charity student for a blind and deaf school in St. Augustine, Florida. Even though he was homesick, he'd never regret getting a proper musical education. Shortly after he turned 15, his mother died. He wrote that he felt he was truly a lost child without her. His life and career. It was very rare for aspiring young black musicians to become famous in this time period, especially for Ray since he was blind and recently discovered heroin addict. He became addicted to heroin for the next 17 years. So, he moved to a town in the north called Seattle, Washington, and styled his music after Nat King Cole. There, he met his future lifelong best friend Quincy Jones and taught him how to write and arrange songs. Quincy was amazed with how independent Ray was about his blindness. "I'd watch him cross the street without cane or dog, dodging traffic, never missing a step," he wrote. "It was like somebody forgot to tell Ray he was blind. In fact, Ray never acted blind unless there was a pretty girl around. Then he'd get all helpless and sightless, bumping into walls and doors." He dropped his last name and was further known as Ray Charles because he didn't want to be confused with a boxer named Sugar Ray Robinson. In 1947, Ray became a part of the group called Mix-Son Trio, which moved to Los Angeles, California to make the independent music. They were so popular that they got a regular time slot on the KRSC radio. Ray, only 18 years old, got to taste what it was really like being famous. In 1949, he had his first child, Evelyn, and had 11 more children throughout the course of his life with various women. The Mix-Son Trio started making hit singles in the R&B charts in the early 1950s, such as "Baby Let Me Hold Your Hand." He met a woman named Eileen Williams who was a friend of his trumpeter's girlfriend Artelia. Soon after his trumpeter Billy Brooks and Artelia got married, Ray thought about marrying Eileen. So they also got married on July 31st, 1951, only 3 weeks after they first met. Within a year of their marriage, the spark was lost and they got divorced soon after. In 1952, Atlantic Records gave him a record deal. Ray included a trio of female black singers known as the Raylettes to expand his band and to add responses to his deep, raspy-like singing in his music in the mid-1950s. This also indicated a future to many volatile relationships for Ray. In 1954, one of his records called "I Got a Woman" showed the world the real Ray Charles. The record had emotional depth and genuineness. It contributed to the birth of the genre known as soul. On April 5, 1955, he got married a second time with Della Beatrice Howard Robinson, which lasted 12 to 13 years. In 1959, Ray made his first million seller called "What I'd Say." The song was a collaboration of fun lyrics, calls, and responses between Ray and the Raylettes, and Latin-styled blues riff. The release of the album The Genius of Ray Charles won him his first 2 Grammys. In result to his success of having more than 20 #1 hits on the pop and R&B charts, he left Atlantic Records for the larger ABC Paramount. In 1960, he received 2 more Grammys for his song "Georgia on My Mind." The song was so popular that it became the official anthem for Georgia in 1979. In 1962, Ray appeared for his first movie called Swinging Along and on soundtracks for other movies. He opened his own studio in LA, California with the help of Tom Dowd, an Atlantic engineer. Things were going good for Ray, but then his personal life started falling apart. In 1964, Ray was arrested again for drug possession. He decided to go to a California sanitarium to cure his addiction. He made a comeback by covering Buck Owens' song called Crying Time. The cover won him 2 more Grammys for Best R&B Solo Vocal Performance and Best R&B Recording. It has been proven that this was his last top 10 chart entry. Towards the end of 1966, he was found guilty for his 1964 drug bust and the sentence was suspended. He released 2 songs called Let's Go Get Stoned and I Don't Need No Doctor that showed his good sense of humor about the subject. Afterwards, though, he was resistant to talking about it. In the early 70s, Ray collaborated with his best friend Quincy Jones and released an album called My Kind of Jazz. In 1976, it became apparent that his career was failing. He made a comeback when he was signed by the head of CBS Records' Nashville division, Rick Blackburn, to return to country music. He had hit duets with Mickey Gilley, George Jones, and Hank Williams Jr. while working with Columbia Records. In 1980, he made an appearance in the famous movie The Blues Brothers. In 1990, he was signed to Warner Brothers Records. He made a duet with Chaka Khan in 1991 and won another Grammy. He was in many self-produced commercials, one of which was Diet Pepsi. That particular commercial was named the most memorable commercial of 1991. Many people believe he was a sellout for doing that commercial, but it boosted his popularity with younger people. The last Grammy he ever won was in 1996 for the release of A Song for You. Also in that year, he ironically played the role as a bus driver in the movie Spy Hard. Many people thought that was the only time he's ever gotten behind the wheel, but he later admitted to driving several times in his life. In 2002, he released his last album, which was called Thanks for Bringing Me Love Around Again. Technically, his last album was made just before he passed away, including duets with Willie Nelson, Norah Jones, Elton John, Bonnie Raitt, and James Taylor. However, it was released around 2 months after his passing. Many people who Ray worked with before said he could be difficult to work with sometimes. The New York Times said that his personal life was complicated. He died on Thursday, June 10, 2004 in his home in Beverly Hills, California due to liver disease. He was 73 years old. Influence on civil rights movement. Ray Charles greatly supported and influenced the civil rights movement. Racism on the South ended up affecting him as it would any other black person. In 1960, Ray was scheduled at a gig at Bell Auditorium in Augusta, Georgia. After finding out that the whites and blacks were going to be separated, he decided to publicly cancel and leave town as soon as he could. The promoter of the gig sued him for violation of the contract. In result, on June 14, 1962, Ray had to pay a fine of $757 to Fulton County Superior Court in Atlanta. Dr. Martin Luther King was befriended by and supported by Ray. He released 2 songs in 1962 and 1966 called Danger Zone and You're Not In for a Big Surprise, and an album in 1973 called A Message from All the People. The purpose of these songs and this album was to protest and to send messages through his music. Legacy. Even though Ray Charles was blind and black, he accomplished more in a year than the average person would in a lifetime. He made over 60 albums, won a dozen Grammys, a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, Kennedy Center honors, inductions into rock, jazz, and rhythm and blues halls of fame, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a Presidential Medal of Arts, and was nominated 3 times for an Emmy. Ray is a critically acclaimed biography of him that was made to show he rose from the bottom of the ladder. He influenced the music of many other artists ranging from Frank Sinatra to Billy Joel. He was living proof that no matter how many or what challenges you face, you can do anything you set your mind to. To this day, Ray Charles is still remembered as a leader of moral values and as a musical legacy.